Alright. Evaluate, simplify, and solve. So we're going to understand the differences between these. So some helpful vocabulary. Solve. Solve means we can solve an equation when we isolate a variable. So an example of this would be just a simple one-step equation. So 3x minus 2 equals 12. So basically we're trying to get this x by itself. So in this case we would add the 2 and then divide by 3 because we're trying to get x by itself. Or here we would subtract the 13 and divide by negative. So these are some examples of what an equation will look like when we are solving the equation. Okay, next we have simplify. Simplify means we reduce the expressions to a simpler form, or we kind of like combine the like terms. So for example, 3x minus 2 plus 12, we would combine the negative 2 and the 12. Negative 8x plus 13 plus 5x, we would combine your 5x and negative 8x. Okay, negative 8x plus 13, there should be just a subtract sign. Sorry about that. So negative 8x plus 13 minus 5 plus 12, we would combine the 13 and the minus 5 and the plus 12. And those are some examples of how we would simplify. Basically just like combining like terms. Okay, then evaluate. When we're evaluating, we're plugging in a value for x and then simplifying. So, for example, here it says 3x minus 2 when x equals 2. Well, that's just saying take this 2 and plug it in right there. And then, so we got 3 times 2 minus 2, 6 minus 2 equals 4. So, whenever you see something that says when x equals 2, that means plug it in. That's when we're evaluating. So once again, when you're asked to solve something, that means you're isolating the x. You're going to say x equals something. When you're simplifying, you're just basically combining like terms, trying to get it into a simpler form. Evaluating means you're going to be plugging something into the expression. Okay? So let's look at some examples. So which of the following can be solved? Alright, so basically, solved means we're going to isolate the x, or we're going to look for an equation. So like right here, here's an equation, or in other words, we have an equal sign. So negative 8x squared minus x equals 14. We can isolate the x and solve. Let's see this. Nope, that's not one. Here, that can't be solved. Here, when x equals 2, that's not going to be solved. 2x plus 6 equals negative 12. Here's one right here. We can solve this. 2 times 70 minus 4x equals 12 plus 14. Here's my equal sign, which means I can solve this. There we go. So those can be solved. These other ones are not solved. Okay, which ones can be simplified? So simplified, we're basically looking for expressions that we can combine like terms. So we don't have this one. This has an equal sign that you can solve. This is saying when x equals 2, so we'd plug that in, so that's not simplified. Here we just have an expression that we can combine like terms. We can combine the x cubed. Well, that's the only one. But we could combine these x squareds. So there's something we could simplify. Here, we already discussed we would we would plug in the 2 here. Here we would solve this, and we would solve this. So this is the only one that could be simplified out of these 6 options. Okay? And now which one can be evaluated? So it gives us a value, and we plug it in. So right here, it gives us a value of x equals 2, and we would plug it in and evaluate what happens when we plug in that 2. So here we would solve. This one is simplifying. Alright, 7x squared plus 4 when x equals 2. Okay, this would be something we could evaluate because we could take the when x equals 2 and plug it in right here. Here this was solved, and here this was solved. Now, for your assignment, basically you're going to have to pick, kind of like what we just did in the examples. They're going to give you a bunch of different equations and expressions, and you have to determine which one can be evaluated, which one can be solved, and which one can be simplified. You'll also have a couple where you're going to come up on your own. It's going to say create an equation that can be solved. So basically, you're just going to come up with an equation with an equal sign, and then you'll have to solve it, so you can make it easy. You'll have to come up with one that says evaluate. So you just come up with an expression and then say when x equals some number, and then you'll solve it. And then it'll ask you to do one to make an expression that you can simplify. So it's something similar to this one right here, where you're just going to write an expression down that has some like terms that you'll have to combine those like terms. Okay, so there you go. If you have any questions, let me know, and hope you have a good day.